Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.
Yeah.
I feel like we needed to pop up after so that people could see that beautiful background that we have. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Kind of dope, yo. It is.
That's all I'm saying.
It's kind of dope. Check it out. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question.
You just did.
I'm gonna ask you another one. Do you know what being screeched in means?
I do not know what being screeched in means. That sounds like something that's bad.
It's not. So
Okay.
when you come to Newfoundland, if you want to become an official, I'm in Newfoundland, by the way, St. John's, Newfoundland. Doing a little scouting. As you can see, the hotel has a round window there to make it look like it's
chicka bow wow.
No, actually, it's to make you feel like you're on a ship. Because if you look outside, you can't see out that window. If you look outside, that window is a port with like all these massive like boats and stuff. There's the actual window. The actual windows here. The actual windows here. Anyway, I'm all twisted because it's upside down. So when you come to Newfoundland, you can become an official Newfoundlander. By getting screeched in.
What does that mean, Tom? Exactly.
So you have to go through a ceremony. You have to eat a traditional dish. You have to take a shot of Screech rum. So Screech rum, a little quick background, basically is Newfoundlanders and Jamaicans would trade their fish, Newfoundland's fish, for Jamaican rum. That was their back. I'm talking before Canada was even a country. Right. Newfoundland was actually a country on its own. And so they would trade with Jamaica. Yep. And so what they would do to get more rum, instead of getting barrels of rum, they would just get the, I don't know if it's the cane or because it's made with sugar cane. They would get it as a hard thing and then bring it to Newfoundland and then add the water. And that's how they make it liquid rum, because you could get more of the solid up versus barrels of rum. So they made this stuff called Screech. I won't go into the whole story about the Screech. It is the most disgusting rum you've ever tasted in your life.
Garbage, trash.
It's not that it's disgusting. It's like at that time it was like 190 proof.
Oh, so my God! Imagine. So it's like basically drinking a bottle of alcohol. That's essentially what you're doing.
Yes. So they've made it tastier now, but let's be honest, not by much. And then the most important part of screeching in is, so you eat the traditional dish, you hear the story of Newfoundland, you learn to speak like an official Newfoundlander. You get the captain, of course. Let me see if I can get that so you can see it without a thing. You get the captain, of course, to give you some rum. Here's the Screech. I don't know if you can see the name on the bottle. I'll try to
wait. Rewind really quickly, Tone, because I want to make sure I'm following you. Where does this ceremony happen at? Because it sounds like you're getting initiated in to be an official. Like you're part of the gang now. Like we got
in Newfoundland, yes.
Yeah, we got to make you part of the crew now. So,
but I didn't tell you the last part of screeching in. So after the food, after the rum, you got to kiss the fish.
Oh my goodness!
That is a official Newfoundland cod. And I am officially now a Newfoundlander.
Okay,
so there you have it. Hey, boy.
Number one, this sounds like the modern day trades in the NBA. Okay, Tone, I like the rum. I got the rum. You got the fish. How about I give you a half an ounce of my rum? Give me 2 of those trout you got there.
More like give me 10 barrels of rum.
Let me get a case of that rum right there.
Yeah, and I'll give you like 1,000 pounds, like a ton of cod. Which is interesting too. They don't even call it cod; they call it fish. Right. Every other fish has a name, right? Salmon, tuna, but cod, because like literally the first guy that came over here dumped a bucket into the water, pulled it up, and it was filled with cod. That's how many fish. That's why everybody moved. I learned so mumuch today. It's actually quite amazing.
How about that?
But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk basketball. But go ahead.
Do you get a card, or like because just so we clear, Tone, if I'm officially a Newfoundlander, right? I'm from Newfoundland. I'm there. So because I'm there, how can I prove my residency? Like I like the next time I come here, I'm not going to go through this whole thing again. Like no, I'm a citizen.
I got a certificate, my guy.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. That's what I mean. I'm official.
I am official.
Yes.
Didn't know. It's one of those things you didn't know you wanted till you got it.
There you go. Now it's necessary. I didn't even know I needed this. Now it's official. I need this. This is part of me. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Jermaine. Yes, Jermaine, we see you. Yes, Jermaine, we see you. We'll be bringing up guests later on in the show.
Yes, sir.
So I'm here. I don't have access to anything. You're gonna lead the ship today. Excuse me. I'm just gonna comment.
Let me get my I thought I was just hitting the live button. Okay, so Tone and I
can. Oh, you want me to look up the stuff? I can help with that too. Hold on.
Yes, absolutely. 1 second, Tone. I can hear you. Just 1 second, really quickly. 1 second.
I'm just gonna go down the list.
All right, we go.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go down the list as you sent them to me. We're gonna start now. Obviously, we're gonna talk about Luka and the Lakers. We're gonna talk about SGA versus Jokic for MVP. We're gonna talk about NBA contenders and pretenders. That's for the playoffs. I want to go through and be like, who's legit in the East and the West. But let's start with my good friend in the failed process, Joel Embiid. Could get, I don't know why it's a could, meniscus replacement procedure.
Right.
And the question is, not is he done for the season, is he done as an NBA player?
So let's give the people some context here. Okay, so we'll start the conversation with Joel Embiid showed up in the league in 2014. He was broken when he showed up into the league. He missed his first 2 years because he had foot problems. Right? He had foot problems his first 2 seasons, not 1, 2 seasons. He's out the whole season with feet problems. He comes in the next year, in year 3. I think he only plays 60 plus. I think he plays 60 something games. So from 2017 to 2024, he's missed a total of up until now. He's missed a total of 460 games. Right? 460 games. We're talking almost 6 NBA seasons he's missed. So now what they want to do, and this is a radical surgery that we're talking about here, Tone, because again, I want to make sure that we're clear. He already came in the game broken. So what you now want to do in order to fix him, we have 2 different options here, and I want to make sure that I read this correctly to you, Tone, because I don't want to give the people at home any misinformation. So what the plan is he could undergo a meniscus replacement, which is what happened with Lonzo Ball. That's what they did with Lonzo Ball. They basically took out his meniscus and put a new meniscus in. They can do that. Or a procedure where doctors break a bone in his hip to realign the joint and alleviate pressure. Okay, Tone, first and foremost, he already came in the game broken. I don't want to break something else in order to fix this. I don't want to do that. So let's take that off the table right now. I'm not breaking any bones in him. I'm definitely not breaking his hip.
Do you know which procedure is more common and has had better results? Because I get it. You don't want to break something. But a lot of times, if you've broken something and it doesn't set properly, you need to re-break it to set it properly. And it can make it stronger.
You want to take that chance with Joel Embiid?
He's missed as many games as he's played. He's 466 games played, 400 and something games missed. Mm-hmm. It's a 50-50 shot anyways.
I'd much rather. I've seen the results because it took Lonzo 2 years to get back. Joel Embiid is 30 years old. If he gets this meniscus replacement, we're looking at another year. He's not coming back. This isn't a 6-month recovery. If he gets meniscus replacement, he's probably out for the season, right? So moving forward, he might be out for another year, maybe 2. Does that mean his career is over? I'm not gonna go as far as to say his career is over, Tone, but I mean, at 32 years old, what are we looking at from him? He's already damaged goods. And now what you're asked, these are my options. I can replace the meniscus in his knee. And by the way, Tone, I failed to mention, which is very important to mention, we owe him $248 million. I forgot to put that part out there. So that's yeah, I know as a businessman, I know you hate that. So yeah, over the next 4 years, we owe him $248 million. So with that being said, option number 1, we take out the current meniscus in his knee and replace it and put in a new one. Well, we've seen Lonzo. He came back and he proved that, okay, I can hold up with this new meniscus. That's all that was to prove. Or option B, I'm going to break his hip, or I'm going to break a part of his hip to basically realign him and alleviate the pressure. Now, again, Tone, we're just talking about pro basketball here. I'm thinking about, what does this look like in 15 years when I'm in my 40s and I don't play anymore? Like, what does this mean for long-term health? Am I going to be walking funny?
See, here that's where I have a problem. I'm going to stop you there because that's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
Because if you look at most players of every sport, that's not what they're. I get it. I get what you're saying, but that's not their concern. Nobody cares what the long-term effects are. They care about, can I play? What can I do to play at the level that I'm capable of playing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you look at old NFL players, NBA players, hockey players, et cetera, look at them. They all, even ones that weren't great. Look at Phil Jackson walking around with like, it looks like his legs are a foot different.
He had that thing on the bench.
Their length, right?
He had that padding on the bench where he had to sit up higher because his back was screwed up.
Yeah, look at Chris Carter's fingers. They look worse than mine. I've broken all of mine just like him. They look worse than mine where they're all like mangled and messed.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of par for the course. And I get it.
Right.
You don't want to pain because then you get into addictions and painkillers and all that other stuff. And it's just not a good life.
Right.
So he's going to have to make the decision. That being said,
right,
if his decision is have this surgery or have the hip rebroke to alleviate the pain so that you can play more, but long-term down the road, it means that you're not going to have the same life. From what I've seen of Joel Embiid, who won't play in Denver because of the altitude and the effects it'll have on him, I don't think he's going to do it. I think he just says, forget it, I'm done. I got my money. You owe me $248 million. Pay me $200 million as a buyout. Deuces.
Well, two things, Tone. Number one, well, we've seen to your point about the NFL, we've seen guys in the NFL hang them up earlier than they have in the past.
Yep.
You know, Luke Kuechly, Patrick Willis. And why? Because, you know, I'd like to leave. I'm 42 years old and I'd like to leave my house. And in an hour, I still know where I live. They're thinking about that kind of stuff, right? They're thinking about, you know, seeing these ex-NFL players, you know, for lack of a better term, often ending their lives because they're in so much pain. I don't want to do that. I don't want to live that life. And on top of that, Tone, we live in an information age where you can understand the long-term effects today more than you could back then. See, these guys recognize today I don't have to play as long because of the money I was making. In 1992, you know, I really wasn't making that kind of bread, so I had to play longer.
You weren't making generational.
No,
kind of money.
I wasn't doing that. And on top of that, it was compounded by the fact that I'm 29 and I think I'm going to feel like this in 10 years. I think I'm going to feel like this in 15 years. I don't know that, you know, when it's time for me to not play anymore, you know, I'm not going to be able to run as fast as I did 10 years ago. And the long-term effects on my body today, long-term effects on my body, that the long-term effects that I'm putting on my body today could be detrimental. Shaq talks about it all the time.
But hold on. So I was going to bring him up.
Sure.
So if you recall, right after Shaq's hip replacement, his BBL, as he told us, but after his hip replacement, the first interview he did, the first thing he did was come on and speak with us, which, again, thank you, Shaq.
Yep, he did do that.
And what did he tell us? Because of his size and weight and etc., he'll never be able to play basketball, even pick up one-on-one, like nothing ever again because of the new hip.
Yep.
So if the hip, so that's what he had. But if you asked Shaq, hey, what if I could have given you back, whether it's the Phoenix, the Celtics, the Cavs, those whatever 5-year stretch of let's call it the Sun Celtic Cav years, I could have given you those back at near prime. But it would mean you'd have to have both hips replaced and you'd hobble the rest of those years. Do you think he would give up his future health for those 5 playing years at his peak?
If he could
I'm
have
not even
been,
talking about winning championships. I'm just talking about playing.
If he could have been close to the Diesel, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have. It would have been hard to say no to that. If he could have been like early Miami Shaq, if he could have been late, if he could have been late Laker Shaq,
late Laker, early Miami Shaq.
If he could have been late Laker, early Miami Shaq, you could be that for 5 more years playing in Cleveland and playing in Phoenix and Cleveland and with the Celtics. You could still be that. I don't know if he would have said no to that. And the reason why, because when you're living in that, you don't want that to end. And you're not thinking about the long-term effects. What I'm saying is,
even with the information and all the stuff that we know and access to that stuff, I think a great athlete, 9 times out of 10, there's the exceptions, 9 times out of 10 will choose, let me prolong my greatness versus worrying about when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying we've talked and spoken with and been athletes enough to know they give it up.
When we get, I just think that when we're talking about these guys at the level that they're at now, like Joel Embiid, I mean, before he tears up his knee last season, he probably was going to win the league MVP almost unanimously, if we're being honest, because the way he was rolling in those first 35, 40 games, he was rolling, and it looked like he was going to win the league MVP going away. So if you're telling Joel Embiid, all right, Joe, with this hip replacement, with this hip surgery, if I break your hip, oh, Tom, this just sounds so bad. But anyway, if I break your hip and I could get you back to 80% of what that was, I'm not saying I can get you all the way back to that, but if I break your hip and alleviate some of the pressure, and I could get you back to 80% of what that was, maybe even 85% of what that was, and I could give you 4 more years of that, Joel Embiid, would you be interested? Tone, that sounds like making a deal with the devil. It does. And the reason why it sounds like making a deal with the devil, because I ain't thinking about 10 years from now when I'm 40, when I'm 45, and I might not be able to walk that well. I'm not thinking about that. But what I am thinking about is I'm thinking about being 80% of what I was when I was a league MVP candidate.
Don't forget, they won't say 80. They'll say you're going to be between 80 and 90%.
That sounds like I'm almost.
They're going to give you a range.
Yeah, that sounds.
And I'll tell you. I think. I think again. I don't know Joel Embiid personally.
Right.
I'm just going by what I've heard him say. Like, let's be honest. It's not like he loves Philadelphia right now. He's already come out prior to this and complained about the way people, the Philly fans, treat him. Right. So if he's still on Philadelphia, which if he was healthy, I don't think he would be. I think he would have been traded. If he's still in Philadelphia, is he like, am I going to come back and play for a bunch of ungrateful fans on a bad team, on a losing team, or take $250-ish million and go off into the sunset? I'm telling you, it'd be hard. It would be hard from, like, it depends. Like, it depends the player. Like, if you threw out players at me, I would give you different answers. Embiid, I think, I got $250 million. Let me be healthy. And I'm not saying he's wrong. Let me be healthy and take my money and go do good things, maybe. Maybe go do good things for other people. I don't know. Again, I don't know him enough to know. Like that, if someone said to you, here's $250 million to go, do wonderful things and help, build schools and hospitals and feed the hungry and live a healthy life, or here's $250 million to put your body and long-term health on the line, it's not as easy as a decision as people think it is.
It isn't, unfortunately. It is not, especially considering after I'm done, and I'm probably never going to get this back again. It's never going to happen. So because of that, I want to prolong this for as long as I possibly can. So if I can stay at this level for another 3, 4, 5 more years, shit, I don't know. I'm not thinking about 10 years from now or 15 years from now. I'm definitely thinking, well, would I do it? Now, I will tell you this, Tone, because I actually thought about this. You're a football guy. And I thought about this when it came to baseball, because I don't have any respect for the Baseball Hall of Fame. But I thought about this. Tone and I came up at the same time. So you and I coming up at the same time, we were in the minor leagues, and we're doing our thing in the minor leagues. You're in, both of us are in AA, and we're doing our thing. But you are better than me, right? You are better. Let me rephrase that. I'm better than you. But somebody comes along and says, yo, Tone, I got this thing where I can give this to you, and I can't guarantee you that you're going to see 50, but what I can guarantee you is your face is going to be on billboards. You're going to be the lead on SportsCenter. I'm going to make you a millionaire over 50 times over. I can't guarantee you that you're going to see 50 or 60, but I can do this for you. And you do it. You end up doing it. And then I see you in the majors, and I'm like, somebody comes to me and goes, hey, Jay, this is what he's doing. And I'm an advocate for staying away from that kind of stuff. But to see you doing that, just as the human in me, I would have to consider it. I would have to think about it, even though I don't want nothing to do with that. And I say that to correlate not thinking about the future. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm saying that to correlate that I'm not thinking about when I'm 50, when I'm 60. I'm thinking about the fact that Tone and I came up together, and Tone is playing for the Baltimore Orioles, and he just signed a 4-year deal for $65 million. Meanwhile, I'm taking a bus to Fayetteville, and I've been in the minors for the 3rd straight year now. And Tone, I just talked to Tone yesterday, and they're in Texas playing the Rangers, and he's hitting 320, and he's going to make the All-Star team for the 2nd year in a row.
Sounds about right.
Am I thinking about when I'm 50? Am I thinking about when I'm 60? At that particular, especially at 24?
That scenario is different because it's someone who hasn't proven it. Joel Embiid, say what you want about him, as a player, as a person, his record in the playoffs. Joel Embiid has proven to be, when healthy, and that's the big caveat, but when healthy, one of the best players in the world, an MVP, a legit earned MVP. He doesn't have to prove that he could play in the NBA. So for him, I think there's less to prove. It's not like, he's made an all-star team. He's made an all-NBA team. He's won an NBA championship.
Right.
Sorry, he has not won an NBA championship. He has won an MVP. Let me stop there.
Yes, he has.
So he's done those things as an individual player that he doesn't have anything to prove. Here's the downside, or the other side, that we haven't talked about. And I come from firsthand experience where, as you know, I have a broken back. Yeah. And they said, hey, we can fix your back, and there's a chance that it'll be healed and it'll be great and you'll never have any more pain anymore. But they also said there's a 75 to 90% chance that because of what we do, if it doesn't go perfect, you won't walk again. And now you got to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Do you walk? Do you take the chance? And so they might be telling Joel Embiid, right, let's think of the flip side. Hey, we can break your hip, or we can do this. And there's a chance you could play again at 80, 90%. But there's also a chance you're going to be in a wheelchair when you're 40. And now you have to wait, because people always look at what's the positive, what's the chance I'm going to be great again, but there's another chance. And so, again, I can't answer for him. Listen, I'm the guy that told Tua, Tua, he should retire, right? I said, you've had enough concussion. And he came back, and to his credit, is fine. But
sure,
that's such an individual. I'll never judge someone for making an individual health choice, because we're not in that room. We don't hear we hear he could have this surgery and could play again, but you don't hear it could also kill him.
Right. We don't hear that part. So since you brought up you brought up killing them, Cade Cunningham is killing them this season. Yes, he is, Tony. He's getting busy. I had a really interesting conversation. This season, Cade Cunningham is 25, 6, and almost 10 assists, shooting 46%. And they're 4 games over 500. Last year, he was 23, 5, and almost 8, shooting 45%. And they were 44 games. 54 games. I'm sorry. They were 54 games under 500.
Yeah.
Does Cade have a case for the most improved player this season? I don't think he does, Tone.
Does winning play a factor in most improved?
No, it doesn't. Mm-mm.
In that case, what has been the biggest factor in the most improved player throughout the history of the award? It has been lift in points per game.
Sure.
Right? That's the first thing they looked at. So if I look at 22.7 and 25.4, I'm like, all right, so he's averaging 2.7 points more per game.
That's a bucket.
Big whoop. It's less than a 3 a game in this era. So by the historical value of most improved, no, he has no shot. By me watching him in Detroit and going, especially live games, you know how I feel about it's one thing to watch on TV, it's another thing to watch highlights. I feel like when you go in person and you can watch a person the whole time, not just when the ball's in his hand, just all the time, he has not only become a better scorer, a better rebounder, a better passer, a better shooter, a better defender, he has become a better leader of that team. And I would say if we really cared about basketball,
right,
I don't think I'd give it to him, but he'd be in the conversation. I don't even think with these numbers he's in the conversation, but I have seen a completely different player, not numbers-wise, last year to this year. Now, part of that is winning. You know, 100%. When you start to lose, the head starts to drop a little bit and your shoulders start to slouch. And when you're winning, right, puff up your chest a little. So some of that is that, but I think it's a large part. I think the success, coaching players, but I think he is a huge, huge part of the reason that they're ahead of schedule from what we thought they were going to be this year.
Well, if you, again, Tony, you and I had this conversation last year, and probably a month ago last year, we're in the end of February. So a month ago last year, you sat on this very show and told me that your Toronto Raptors were going to throw a monkey wrench in this. Because I had them losing 40 straight games, Tony. I looked at the schedule. And I had them losing 40 straight. I was looking at the schedule and I was going, who do they beat? I don't see them beating any of these teams. None of them. I didn't have them winning a game for over 2.5 months. I had them losing 40 straight games. And lo and behold, Tone comes on here. Bingo. Jay, Toronto is going to beat them. They're going to beat
Toronto's
Toronto.
going to lose to them. Toronto's going to lose.
They're going to beat Toronto. Tone, there's no way Toronto is going to lose to them. Toronto ends up losing to the Detroit Pistons and at the 28 straight games. Now, when you talk about
Detroit became a fan of me and started inviting me to games, and now look, I start going, they start winning. Just saying, coincidence?
No, it's not.
Any other team that wants to win, give me a shout. That's all I'm saying.
The most improved player has been right. The most improved player has been over the course of time. Because I did some homework on. I think over the last 6 years, the most improved player, his scoring average goes up minimum 5 points, minimum, and that includes.
I thought it would have been more. I thought it was closer to 8 to 10.
At minimum, it goes up 5 points. At minimum, this is the most improved player. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're on a winning team. It doesn't matter if your team is in the playoffs or anything like that. But considering what Cade Cunningham has been doing, this 25 it looks different than the 25 last year. The 23, because you figure 22 and a half, 22-7, that's essentially 23 a game. And he's averaging 25 this year. So if you look at the numbers, it looks eerily similar. It's not the same this year. He's getting downhill more this year. He's a lot smarter this year. He's taking care of the basketball better this year. They're winning a lot of their games off the strength of what he's doing. Now, I have to admit, when it comes to Cade Cunningham, one of the main reasons why it looks different is because, and I'm saying it today on this show is because the coach of the year in 2024-25. I think that's JB Bickerstaff. I think he wins coach of the year, Tom.
Okay.
I think one of the main reasons why they are who they are today is because of JB Bickerstaff. This crew was similar to what was going on last year. I mean, they got Tobias Harris, they got Hardaway. Beasley's now on the crew. A lot of these we had some new guys, but the way he's using these guys, how he uses Cade getting downhill, how he uses Cade in transition, how he uses Duran, more of a lob threat than a guy who we go to on the block for buckets, which is what Monty Williams was doing, using him as a guy. He was giving him the ball on the block, but he was also using him as a pick and dive guy. JB Bickerstaff isn't using him as a pick and dive guy. He's using him as a pick and lob guy and making him more of a rim runner. That helps him. That helps Cade's assist total. That helps Cade's playmaking total because you got a rim runner that's that good, that's running to the rim. All I got to do is throw him the ball at the rim. That's working. He's got a shooter around him now in Beasley. He's got a better shooter around him now in Tim Hardaway Jr., who we run action, cross action, a lot of down screens off of him to get him in space because Duran is actually a good screener, to get him in space where he can make shots. This thing is working largely due to Coach Bickerstaff, but I can't discount what Cade Cunningham has done this year because he looks much better as a lead guard.
So you said you did some research. Who did you happen to look? Who are the players that have the biggest jump in points per game?
So I saw that Brandon Ingram, his points per game went up 6 points. Kobe White, his points per game went up 8 points, but Maxey's his points per game went up, I think, 8.5. I think his points per game went up 8.5 points. The kid that played in New Orleans, Murray, his points per game went up, I think, 6 or 7. So on average, these guys, their points per game go up on average 5 points. But the biggest jump that I saw was last year with both Kobe White and Maxey. But I don't think he's the most improved player. I think the most improved player, to my point, when I talk about points per game, I think that's Norman Powell. Norman Powell is averaging almost 10. He's averaging almost 10 more points this season than he did last year. I think he was averaging 16 a game last year. He's averaging 25 a game this year. Excuse me. He's averaging 25 a game this year.
And that's a guy who went from clearly coming off the bench everywhere that he'd been before. Yeah. And then he kind of moved into a starter role occasionally to a guy, like you said, 10 more points per game. Probably should have been an all-star, right? He was a let's call him a borderline all-star. Well, and I couldn't be happier. Norman Powell's a great dude on and off the court. And so, I think that would be great for him to win. And I think it's well-deserved.
And there's some people who, scoffed at the idea. Well, Chill, he's been in the league for 8 or 9 years. Well, Julius Randle was in the league for, I think year 9 when he won Most Improved. And Julius Randle, his scoring average went up 7 points. He went from averaging when he was with the Knicks that year, he averaged 24 a game when he won Most Improved. I think he averaged 17 a game or 18 a game the year before. So his points per game went up 7 points.
It's not Most Improved young player.
No, it's not.
Most Improved player. And let's be honest, sometimes you may or may not get the opportunity early on. Or what do you think is harder? Because you always say this. By your 5th year, that's kind of who you are in the NBA.
Yep.
So you think it's easier or harder to improve as a young guy who's learning the game, getting accustomed to the speed of the game, understanding how to play, how to balance your life, blah, 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 when you're young and improved? Or is it harder when you're 32, I don't know how old Norman Powell is, or 35 to take your whole career that's been this and then do this? I think it's harder when you're old.
I think it's harder when you're older too, because even though you've been in the league for as long as you've been in the league and you might know the nuances of the league and you might have a better idea what's going on. With all of that being said, Tone, you still are going up against a lot of younger guys. And this is a young league that we live in. Yeah, and since we're on the subject of young, I just want to double back really quickly to what we talked about when we talked about Joel Embiid. Tone, you're right a lot more than I give you credit for.
And I like where this is going. I like where this is going.
You're right a lot more than I give you credit for. And I do, and I'm standing here today saying I need to give my man Tone more credit when he's right, because he told me in September that this Philly team was going to be garbage. He told me that. He told me that. He told me to my face, Jay, do not buy any stock. I had a stack of hundreds. And he told me as a businessman, he said, Jay, don't buy any stock in this Philly team. Don't do it. This thing is going to go under, and it's going to go under immediately. It's not going to go under as the season goes on. This is going to go under immediately. And I'm like, Tone, wait a minute. They got Joel Embiid. Paul George is going to be there. This thing is going to work. They got this kid, Caleb Martin. Maxey's there. They got the long ball shooter that they're replacing Buddy Hield with Eric Gordon. Tone, this thing is going to work. You're wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong in this, looking at how this whole thing turned out. Number one, Joel Embiid didn't hold up. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit did he hold up.
And if you remember, what I said to you was, even if Paul George and Embiid play their kind of average type of games, they're still going to miss 30 games each. And who knows? And to assume the 50 that they played was going to be the same 50 is, that's not going to happen. So you're basically playing with one or the other, 30, 40, half of the season. There's no way in my mind. That's why I said it. I said, there's no way in my mind that this team can string it together with Maxey being the most consistent available player. And that's no disrespect to Maxey. You love Maxey. I love Maxey. Yep. But there's no way he can carry this team with George and Embiid in and out of the lineup. And I knew there was going to be some fit issues anyways on top of that. So I knew there was no way this was going to, no way it's going to work. I'm actually surprised that more people didn't say this isn't going to work, because y'all were making me feel crazy, because everyone's like, you're crazy, Fluent, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I don't see this working.
And to be honest with you, Tone, when you and I had this conversation and I looked at their five and I'm like, okay, we got Maxey at the 1, we got Gordon at the 2, I got Caleb Martin at the 3, I got Paul George at the 4, and I got Embiid at the 5. The ball player in me is like, that's a whack ass 5, yo. But I'm thinking to myself, they got Joel Embiid and they got Paul George plus Maxey. These guys can make George. Up. This guy can,
George.
It's not. It's not Oklahoma City George. This is not any of those Paul Georges. None of them. So when it turned out the way it turned out, I just remember thinking Tone was so right about these guys. This thing has been a disaster, a complete and utter disaster. And you're in a space now with Joel Embiid. You're in a space now with Joel Embiid where you may be stuck with him, Tone. $248 million. That's $250 million that you're on the hook for with this guy. And he's damaged goods.
We've said a playoff. I've said there's no untradeable contract, and I truly believe that. But if he's hurt and is unable to play, they're going to have to ask for like injury forgiveness or something. Like, I don't know.
Insurance.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to get out of it. And here's the other part that I said at the beginning, but we haven't brought up, is that Nick Nurse as a coach needs to have guys like he has a very defensive minded philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have guys the way if you look at his 32 different defensive schemes, you can't have guys who don't know. Like, they literally, the way they describe it when it was at its peak, that season with Kawhi in Toronto, was it looked like they're attached like by a rope, and when one moves, the other moves, and you can't have that if you can't do that if you're not playing.
Right.
And then the other part, like I said, was, and then when Embiid saying, I know this is a little bit later, but this is when I knew I was onto something. When he says, "Oh, the people in Philadelphia don't appreciate me," I knew it, because for whatever reason, I don't know if it's this generation or just the fans. I'm not saying even the players when I say this generation. We don't appreciate greatness sometimes. Philly didn't appreciate what they had in Joel Embiid, even though he was often injured. They just want championships or whatever. Boston, right? You hear Jason Tatum now saying, I don't think they asked if he felt appreciated. Right. He doesn't feel appreciated. Is Jason? You've always appreciated him.
Yep.
But I think the quote. Let me give you the quote because I don't want to misquote him. Yep. Jason Tatum on if he feels appreciated. Honestly, no. If you took the name and the face away from all my accomplishments, and you're just like, this is what the player is, he thinks he'd be getting more Love.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. This is what the player. Let me finish the quote. This is what this player A accomplished at 26. People will talk about me a lot differently. Now, is there some truth to that? I would say yes, because with certain players, there are certain expectations. Depending on where you get drafted, depending on what team drafts you, depending how, like, there are expectations, and he has, in some regards, lived up to some. In other regards, he hasn't. Because I think the biggest knock against Jason Tatum is, if you remember early on, there's that picture of him and Kobe, and he was training with Kobe, and he's going to be the next kind of Mamba mentality guy, which he's not.
Right.
And I think people expected him to be that. And because it's not, they're not appreciating who Jason Tatum is. Because Jason Tatum, he's right. If it's just Jason Tatum being Jason Tatum, he's damn good.
What if I told you? What if I told you that at age 26, this is player A, Tone. At age 26.
Sorry, one sec. King, Led Zeppelin. Go ahead.
So, Tone, what if I told you this is player A?
Yeah.
We're not talking about. We're taking the name off the back of the jersey. This is player A. He's an NBA champion. He's the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He's a gold medalist twice, by the way. He's got 2 finals appearances. He's got 5 Eastern Conference Finals appearances, winning 2 of them. He's got the most points in Game 7 in NBA history. He's been He's been on the All-Pro team 6 times. He's the fastest Celtic to 10,000 points. He's the take Celtic off the table. He's the fastest player in his franchise's history to 10,000 points. He's the All-Star Game MVP. He's got the most points in the All-Star Game. He's a 5-time All-Star. He's made the All-Pro team, first team, 3 straight years, about to be 4. He made the rookie. He's first team. He's a first team All-Rookie, and he led the finals. He led his team in every major category. How are we talking about that guy, Tone?
Like one of the greatest to ever do it, and probably one of the best his franchise has ever seen.
That's Jason Tatum.
I
That's
know.
who Jason Tatum is.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I obviously knew that was Jason Tatum, but that's how you're talking about him. And he gets none of that.
Right. 0. And let's
be clear, I'm a Laker fan giving praise to a Celtic.
Sure. 100% you are. So
I don't even like having Bird in my top 10.
You brought up something really interesting, Tone, when you talked about what Jason Tatum, in terms of totality, has done, and nobody really cares. Tone, what if I told you in the 21 draft with RJ Barrett, Zion, and Ja, and that was a Cade Cunningham, that was a bomb squad draft, by the way. What if I told you, of all of those guys in that draft, RJ Barrett is the guy who leads that draft in scoring? None of those guys have scored more points than RJ Barrett in that draft.
I would say I knew that, but only because I was watching the Raptors broadcast the other night, and they pulled that up, and I went, "What the hell?"
Yes,
I never would have thought that.
Would he be a bigger deal if he was doing that with the Knicks? Would he be a bigger deal if he was doing that in Los Angeles with the Lakers? Or if he was in Miami, would he be a bigger deal?
In fact, I would say if he did that in any other place, he would be a bigger deal.
100% he would. So the question is why is Jason Tatum, who plays for the Boston Celtics, not appreciated for what he's done? I'll tell you why. Because he plays for the Boston Celtics. He's the rich kid, Tone. He's the guy that gets dropped off in front of the school in a Porsche. His father's got all the...
So hold on. We're talking about Jason Tatum still. We're not on RJ Barrett anymore.
We're not.
Go ahead.
This is who Jason Tatum is. He plays for the Celtics. They won the NBA championship. He's done all of these things that he's done with the Celtics. There's no reason to hate him except for the fact he's the rich kid. He's the kid that's getting dropped off in front of the school in the Rolls Royce. He's the kid that's got all the fresh clothes. He's the good-looking guy in school that has the good-looking girlfriend. He's the guy that everybody wants to be, but they're not. So because they ain't him, they hate him. I think if he was doing what he was doing right now, if he did this when he was with the Trailblazers, the same thing I'm talking about, Tone, everything. Been to the NBA championship, won the NBA championship, been to the NBA finals, been to Western Conference Finals MVP, been in the All-Star game. If he was doing all of this stuff, for the Trailblazers, if he was doing all of this stuff in Oklahoma City, they would love him. They would absolutely love him. But the fact that he plays in Boston, he's the rich kid that's getting dropped off in front of the school in the Porsche. He's the guy with the big house that he has everything, and everybody hates him for it. There's no reason, because I'm not trying to hear it.
I think part of it, though, because if he was on the Lakers, he'd be getting love too.
Correct.
But I think it's a combination of, when you say the Celtics, it's the Celtics, but also that roster. Like, we almost say it as an afterthought that and look, it's good for them as a franchise, but we've always said, like, the last couple of years, this is the best roster in the NBA. This is the deepest roster in the NBA.
Keep talking, Tone. I can hear you. Keep talking.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yeah, when we continually say this is the best roster, this is the deepest team, etc., then it goes back to the expectation. The expectation is, well, if Jason Tatum is the best player on the best team with the best roster and the deepest roster, then he should be putting up these numbers. He should be winning championships. He should be the MVP, which he wasn't. He should be the Eastern Conference MVP, which he wasn't. Now, should he have been the Finals MVP because he, like you said, led the team and everything? Yeah, probably. But that's part of it too. Goes back to my original statement. I think everything that hurts Jason Tatum is everything about expectation and nothing to do with game. It's all about, I expect him to do that, so big deal. Which is so unfair.
It's not
that I expect him to do that. So when he does it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, well,
right.
And then when he doesn't do it, you're like, oh,
why aren't you doing it? It's almost like the Chamberlain effect. Like, you're Chamberlain, why aren't you doing this? And when he does do it, well, you're bigger than everybody else, so you should be doing it. So you don't really give him credit for it. And when I think about everything that Jason Tatum has done over the course of his career, and the fact that the Boston Celtics, which, by the way, this has been done exactly the way you want it done with what Jason Tatum has. He got on a crew. They built that unit around him. He's still been there. He stayed there. Yep. They made trades. He didn't leave.
He went through the bad times. He went through a crazy Kyrie when he was young. Like, he was 19 when Kyrie came in.
Yes.
And then,
and he stayed there. And in the process of him staying there, went through the rough times. They lose to Milwaukee, lose in the East Finals. He's still a kid, and he's still going through the rigors of the NBA. But he still stayed and did everything that you said that a champion, everything that you said that an all-time great player should do. He's doing all of that stuff, but it's because he plays for the Celtics. If he played in Phoenix and he was doing this, and they built a championship unit around him, if he played in Golden State, if he played in Sacramento and they built a championship unit around him like they're doing right now, and they built these kind of players around him, if he did that, if the same thing was going on, you would have no choice but to respect what he's doing. You wouldn't. But the fact that he plays with the Celtics, it sucks.
Mike and Frank in the chat are bringing up the point that I said, I think, when we were on the panel. Was it the panel last week, or when we were watching playback, one of the two, where I said he's got the soft tag, and not soft like soft, although some say that, but soft like he's nice. Like, I don't like to cuss, but if he was an asshole, I think people would give him more love. As crazy as that sounds, I think if he had a bit of an attitude, a bit of a chip on his shoulder, one, I think he'd play better. Two, I think the narrative might have been a little different for him too. And now it's too bad. And now it's too late. He can't become a jerk now. He can't. He can't pull a Hollywood. He can't put a Hollywood Hogan and join the NWO and become a villain. He can't do it now.
Well,
maybe he can. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
But here's the thing, though, Tone. I mean,
you want to see him? What you want to see? You wouldn't want to see Jason Tatum come out?
No, because I know that that's not him. I do. I do know that that's not him. But the idea that if he was, a jerk and treated everybody, well, we've seen that already. We've seen that movie with Bryant. Even though he was respected, it was contrary to popular belief, which makes me nuts when I hear this. people respected Kobe. No, y'all didn't. Y'all hated him. Y'all hated him.
Hold on. As a Laker fan, Kobe is my second favorite player all time next to Magic, and I will confirm everybody outside of LA
y'all hated him.
Hated Kobe Bryant.
Stop acting like because he was a jerk off and he had that killer mentality. That's where the respect. No, it wasn't. Y'all hated him. Y'all hated everything about him. Y'all didn't like him. So here's a guy in Jason Tatum who shows killer. We've seen him actually do that. We've seen him go into Brooklyn when they're down 3-0 with no Jaylen Brown and put 50 on them to force the series into 5 games. We've seen him when they're down 3-2, when they're playing against Milwaukee, go into Milwaukee and put 46 on them in order for them to advance to Game 7. We've seen him in Game 6 when they're down in Philly 3-2, and he goes into Philadelphia and closes out the game with 16 points in the fourth quarter and ices the game, and then takes them back home and puts 51 on them in Game 7, 51, in Game 7. We've seen him do that. We've seen him against the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Championship go 30-10 in order for that series to get ended. We've seen all of this from him, but the fact that he's not, give me a break. Give me a break. There's no reason for you guys to feel this. There's no reason for you guys to treat this guy the way that you have, because if he was playing in Phoenix, if he was playing for the New York Knicks, if he was playing in Atlanta, you wouldn't be treating him like this. It's because he plays for the Celtics.
No, I maybe, but I think it goes back again to what I said. I think it goes back to the expectation. You wanted him going because everyone said he trained under Kobe. He's gonna have the mentality. And he might have it. He just shows it in a different way. And it's because people expected him to do it one way, and he's doing it another way. And I think it was Bubba G Guts who said something that I think is actually very, very true. He just said, Jason Tatum, let me pull it up because I think it's important to someone who, you did it yourself. You go ahead.
I got you, Tom.
All right.
Yep. I got you, Tom.
Right. Jason Tatum is this generation's Tim Duncan. Never got recognized when playing and gets noticed after they retire. I think we are going to appreciate Jason Tatum more, sadly, when he's gone than we do now, just like Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, as much as we talked about Tim Duncan, like the basketball people, non-basketball people didn't talk about him. And then after the fact, we look back and went, damn, he's like a top 10 player. And no one gave him that love during. I don't remember at least anyone giving him that love during.
I'm speaking from the perspective of a basketball guy, and I know that the appeal outside of basketball from the casual fan, because again, Tone, I think that's who we're trying to reach here, because that's who Bryant reached.
That's what sells. Let's be clear.
Sure,
I love us basketball people. I do. Yep. I love us, but we're the minority, right? The ticket sales, the TV viewership, the money, the merch. All of that stuff comes from the casual fan. Can you get the person who goes to one game a year or watches one game a year or only watches the playoffs? Can you get them to appreciate and spend their money?
Right.
That's 80% of where the money comes from. So that appeal, I don't like it, you don't like it, but that appeal matters.
Well, they already got us on the hook. Right.
Yeah.
They already got us on the hook. We're in, and that's just how it is. Who they're after is, they're after Mrs. Fluent, who says, she's on the hook too. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's take Mrs. Fluent out of it.
Yeah, we gotta use somebody else.
Yeah,
I come home and she's watching hoops. So
let me rephrase that, Tone. They already got us on the hook. Who they were after is they were after my grandmother. And the reason why they were after my grandmother is because my grandmother doesn't know anything about basketball, but she knows that her grandson plays basketball. And some guy that plays for the Bulls, he got these shoes that his name's Air Jordan. I don't know who he is, but my grandson loves him. So I'm going to pick up a pair of these Air Jordan shoes for my grandson. That's who they got on the hook, right? That's what they're trying to get on the hook, because we're already on the hook. Now, when it comes to Jason Tatum,
let me give another example too, because I want to give a Canadian spin since I'm in the first place that in Canada, Newfoundland here, the first place that had wireless. But anyways, I'm going to try to give you Newfoundland facts as I go through. They're trying to get the parents who are big hockey fans. They're Toronto Maple Leafs fans. They're living in Toronto. They love the Leafs. And they're trying to get their parents to take their kids who talk about basketball at school every day, take them to a game and buy them a jersey. Even though the parents don't know much about basketball, they heard about this guy named Vince Carter, and he jumps through the roof. Going back a few years. We might maybe need to see what this guy is all about. They're trying to get those people who never even considered basketball as a thing to spend money.
My son loves this guy that plays for the Toronto Raptors. His name is Vince Carter. I don't know who he is, but my son keeps bugging me about getting some tickets to go see him because apparently he's great. So we want to do that. With that being said, I understand the appeal.
We got a trivia timeout.
Oh, hold on for a second.
We got a trivia timeout. You ready?
I'm listening.
Are you ready?
I'm listening.
Name the top 3 and only 3 guards in order that have over 800 blocks in their career.
Top 3 guards in their career in order. Let's see.
And they're the only 3 that have over 800 blocks.
So Wade is at the top of that list. He's number 1. No Wade.
Wade is on the list, but he's not number 1.
So Wade, I think Wade is on that. I thought Wade was number 1. I think Jordan is on that list also.
Jordan is 1. Wade is 2.
I think Bryant is on that list too.
Bryant does not have over 800 blocks.
And if it's not him, is it Moncrief? I'm stuck, Tone.
Well, the reason I thought of it, Vince Carter.
Vince Carter has over 800 blocks for his career. Wow.
Yep.
He did play 22 years. That does make sense for him to play as long as he played.
He played a long time. He played a long time.
He definitely played a long time.
And people, a lot of times people think of him as a small forward, but he was definitely a shooting guard. And he's the third one over 800.
Yes, he played the 2 up in Toronto. No doubt about it. Yes, he did do that. So
there you go. So sorry, go back to So get their money of those casuals. Yes.
Right. And I do understand that the appeal is to get the casual fan in the fold, but basketball people knew who Tim Duncan was. We all knew who Tim Duncan was. The fact that he wasn't a household name to some people, that doesn't mean that he wasn't a big deal throughout the NBA. He was in commercials.
And he's another one, right? Let's be honest. If he wasn't playing in San Antonio,
right,
more people probably do hear of him.
He was quiet. There really wasn't much. But with that being said, as the fantastic player that he was still racking up accolades. He was still the league MVP. He was still the NBA champion. He was the finals MVP. He was still doing that stuff. And we knew about him. The difference is that because he wasn't boisterous about it, because he wasn't standing on the top of the hill going, yes, right, look at me. Because he wasn't doing that, because he wasn't loud about it, that doesn't mean that people didn't respect it or recognize who Tim Duncan was. Because I know for a fact that I did. And I know that there are plenty of people who knew me who weren't as entrenched in the NBA community knew about him also. Because I was talking about Tim Duncan on a regular. Tacos and Ranch. He says, Sports and Chill. He says, would you rather have on your team McGrady or Tatum? I'm glad you brought that up, Tacos, because I'll say this today, and I'm on record saying this. I think Jason Tatum is everything that Tracy McGrady was supposed to be. Everything that Tracy McGrady was supposed to be as a player, I think that's who Jason Tatum is today. Everything. Had he not broken down, had he not had some unfortunate injuries and things like that, had he not had some bad luck when it came to teams and in the playoffs, I think that Jason Tatum is everything from his game, from his persona, everything that Tracy McGrady was supposed to be. That's what Jason Tatum is. All of that stuff, all of those things that I ran down, I think that's what Tracy McGrady was supposed to be, that Jason Tatum ended up turning into.
It's easy because we're going to look back and we know what happened. And the only people that are going to argue this
Yep.
are people who are going to look at McGrady, what he could have been, what his peak was in the regular season. But let's be production matters.
100% it does, Tom.
What he did, and that's why I say maybe my opinion is skewed because I'm looking at a guy who had all the potential in the world and showed us for a brief moment how great he could be, but never played more than 7 games in the playoffs.
Told you keep saying that to me. That's a crazy ass stat.
The most games he ever played in any playoff run was 7. 7. That's one round.
For those of y'all who don't know, Tracy McGrady in his career, when he's been in the playoffs, never got out of round 1, ever.
As a
player, he never got out of round 1.
He was on a team. He was on a team
he was on a team in San Antonio in 13. But I'm talking about when he was that dude, when he was the dog, he never got out of round 1, not one time.
And so, if I'm picking between the two, I'm going to go with the guy who's, knocking on wood, has been healthy, has produced, has been there, has stuck. Listen, and maybe a bit of sour grapes too, a little bit, because I was but I was living in Toronto at the time, and saw what him and Vince could have been together. And my second favorite player, Kobe, I don't know if you remember this, I believe it was in Slam, I think, said, if Tracy doesn't leave Toronto, it's Lakers and Raptors in the finals at least 3 times.
With Vince Carter, I don't
Vince Carter and T-Mac?
Yeah, I don't know if I
because don't forget, T-Mac, back then, don't forget, rookie deals were only 3 years. That's why they moved it to 5, because teams were losing their players too quick. So you drafted a kid out of high school that was 18, and 3 years when he was about to hit who he was gonna be,
right? He's
like, I don't like Toronto. I don't like being in the shadow of Vince Carter, even though he's my cousin. I'm going to Orlando. I'm going back home, which is fine. If players want to go home, no problem. He leaves. If they would have had him for like now, where they control the contract for 5 years, and we would have seen year 4 and 5 T-Mac in Toronto, that team, because don't forget, that team, they started to construct it better. If you look, and not to spend too much time on this, but just quickly, if you look at McGrady's last year, it was Vince Carter emerging as a superstar. They also had veteran guys in Chris Childs, Charles Oakley, Antonio Davis. Like, they had a bunch of, Jerome Williams, right? They had a bench coming as well. So they had the veteran with the young superstars. And a guy like I always tell this story, and I laugh when I say it, because I always complain about Vince, right? Like, he'd get tapped and he'd fall like he got shot.
Right.
And I went to a game with Nav Bhatia. Let's give out a shout to Nav Bhatia, the super fan. And I'm sitting next to him on the baseline. Vince Carter goes down like he's been shot on the baseline. Charles Oakley walks over, looks down at him, and just says, "No." He just said, "Get up." And Vince literally went like this. Bing!
Popped right up.
Stood right up and went to the foul line. And I'm like, he needed that guy. And so that's why I was like, I was sure if they stuck together with those veteran, Chris Childs was a tough player. Oakley was a tough player. Davis was a tough player. Jerome Williams was scrappy. Like, they had a good mix that I think, it's too bad the team was going through coaching and ownership turmoil. But team construction, man, if they would have had Tracy McGrady that 1 or 2 more years, it would have been fun to watch.
Tone, what happens this season? Because on the trajectory that we're currently on, and I had a really interesting fact, delivered to me today. Tone, in the 78-year history of the NBA, there's only been 2 teams that have been lower. 2 teams that have been lower than the 3 seed that have won the NBA championship.
The Rockets,
right?
And who's it? Oh, tell me when it was.
Think 60s.
The Hawks?
Nope.
Celtics?
Yes.
No.
69 Celtics. They were the 4 seed.
I was like, it couldn't have been the Celtics. So who else won during there? I think it was just the Hawks.
Which means
59. That would have been
Which means that with the top 3 seeds that we have, with the Celtics, the Cavs, and Oklahoma City, one of these 3 teams is going to win the NBA championship.
Do you know another thing? because this was given to me on Sunday during NBA Max, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Sportsline. That there's only been like same thing, kind of a few number of teams who get their, like every NBA champion gets their 40th win, not including shortened seasons.
Sure.
Get their 40th win before their 20th loss.
Wow, that's interesting.
And
that's an interesting stat.
And it's the Cavs, OKC, and Boston.
The Cavs, Cleveland, OKC, and Boston. So it's going to be one of
really history on their side,
right? So one of these three teams is going to win the NBA championship. I bring that up, Tone, to ask you because we're talking about Jason Tatum. Because I've always felt like when you win the NBA championship in back-to-back seasons, I feel like it puts you in a different space. What happens if the Celtics win it again and Jason Tatum basically has the same run that he had last year, where he's leading the Celtics in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals, and they end up winning the NBA championship again, and he wins the Finals MVP?
I was going to say he better win the Finals MVP.
Now, me, Tone, you know how I am when it comes to winning. I do care about winning, but I feel like that's only a box that's checked. Okay, if they were to win the NBA championship again, okay, that's a box that's checked. Back-to-back seasons, I still need from him, if they were to win the NBA championship this year, I would still need him to give me 5 more years of this Jason Tatum. He's 26 right now. Because if he gives me 5 more years of this Jason Tatum, that's a decade. And you know that's my number. How I feel about a guy in terms of being awesome. I need at least this before we can start talking about you like we talk about the all-time greats. When you check the box for champions, okay, you did check that box. You were the best player on the championship team. I won't argue that. 100%. That's a big deal. How long were you awesome for? Because what you're telling me is when you were awesome for 4 years, 5 years, okay, that was great. But when I'm thinking about you and I'm thinking about other guys who were awesome for 9 years, for 10 years, for 11 years, I'm comparing you to those guys. These are the guys that I'm thinking about when I'm comparing you to the all-time greats. And I think that with you winning the NBA championship in back-to-back seasons, yes, that does put you in a different stratosphere. Because, again, in the 78-year history of the NBA, Tone, in the 78-year history of the NBA, what do we have? The Celtics, the Lakers, the Pistons, the Bulls, the Warriors, the Heat. These are the only teams that have won the NBA championship in back-to-back seasons.
The Rockets.
That's it. I said the Rockets.
Oh,
I said the Rockets.
Hold on, wait, no. That can't be right.
That's it, Tone. In the 60s, it was the Celtics. In the 80s, it was the Lakers. In the 90s, it was the Rockets and the Bulls. In 2000, also the Lakers. We already talked about them.
Oh, right. Because the Lakers done it multiple times.
Yes,
right,
sir.
Right. Okay, yeah.
That's it. 6 teams who have done that. And of those 6 teams, all of those guys who are on that roster, who we talk about in all-time greats, they've been awesome for a long time. Scottie Pippen was awesome for an entire decade. From 1990 to 1998, he was awesome. Right? Jordan, we already know who he was. Magic, we know who he was. When we're talking about back-to-backs. And by the way, Tom,
you know what the problem is going to be with Jason Tatum? He is playing in an era with more superstar potential players than of any other era. And I don't think he's ever going to win an MVP, a regular season MVP. So even if and when he wins the finals MVP, not having one regular season MVP, I think is really, really going to hurt him.
I could get with that. Yes, because I said the same thing about Kawhi Leonard. I did. I said the same thing about Kawhi Leonard. The fact that Leonard has won the finals MVP. But with that being said, where does this put him in the allure of all-time great Celtics? Because again, remember, Tone, for me to win the NBA championship in back-to-back seasons, okay, Bird never did that. Right? Bird never did that, to win the NBA championship in back-to-back seasons. For me to be the finals MVP, right? The finals MVP on a team that won the NBA championship in back-to-back years. Russ never did that. Right? So where does this put me? What do I have to do? What do I have to do in order to be considered one of the all-time great Celtics in the end?
So when we say all-time great, let's look at like top 5. So you're gonna have Russell, Bird,
Havlicek.
Havlicek. Has he surpassed Pierce?
Not yet.
So Pierce,
Mhm.
and then you get into
McHale.
no, but hold on.
Uh-oh.
The reason I stopped at those 4 is because although Havlicek originally came off the bench, he eventually became the main guy, and then in the 70s won on his own or as the main guy.
And he was a starter longer than he was a rotation guy.
Yeah, for sure. But those are the only 4 number 1s.
Right.
Like because then you get into the number 2s, you get into the McHales and the et cetera. And that's where it's like, well, do you bump him ahead of if he wins back to back, which we just talked about Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, for all of his years in the NBA and his 5 championships and his 6 finals appearances and his never had a season under 50 wins, never won back to back. Granted, that was with the Spurs. However, does he automatically, if he wins back to back, bump McHale in Celtics greatness because he's the number 1? McHale was not the number 1.
Yes,
he was the number 2.
He may
in
go
fact,
ahead of Kevin McHale.
Probably the 2A, 2B with him and Parrish. If we really and then DJ, like then you're going to get really into who was the number 2 on that Celtics team, right? Bird was the 1. Was it Parrish? Was it McHale? I think it was McHale. But was it Parrish? McHale? Was it DJ?
So Jason Tatum would be in this is year 7 for him, or is it year 8? No, this is year 8 that we're in. So Kevin McHale in year 8, that's 1989, right? Because he showed up in 81. So he actually showed up in 80. Magic showed up in 79. He showed up in 80. So that would be 88. Has Jason Tatum done more than Kevin McHale in the last 8 years? First team All Pro. I think that's going to be for the 4th straight year.
He has. And then because I'm going to put talent and skill set and accomplishments.
Yeah.
And like we said, we're saying it if he wins Finals MVP and wins back-to-back trips. So I'm going to say yes.
I think that he is, Tone. I do.
Yeah.
I think that,
so he's number 4. And closing in on Pierce. Closing in on Pierce.
I'm thinking more number.
I'm
thinking 5. I'm thinking 5 and closing in on moving guys like Paul Pierce out. I mean, Havlicek's the all-time leading scorer in Celtics history. I get that part. He's an 8-time All-Pro, 8-time All-League defender. It's going to be hard to move Havlicek out of there. It's going to be hard to do that. That's going to be really difficult to do. So, speaking of something that's really difficult, I want to get back on Philly really quickly, Tone. I don't want to talk about Philly too much longer, but I want to get back on Philly really quickly because Paul George had some interesting comments. Paul George said, we've shown no sign of a team that will compete. We just don't have the habits of a champion or a playoff contending team would have. To be honest, right now, it's a little far-fetched. All we can do is work hard and try to keep going. Well, number 1.
Was he looking in the mirror when he said it?
That was my first question. Well, first of all, what would you know about that? That's number 1.
Him. That's him in a nutshell.
Yeah. What would you know about being on a championship team?
What would anyone on that team know? Does Joel? No. Maxey? No disrespect. No. Paul Pierce? No. Well, there's your 3 best players. If your 3 best players don't have the the work ethic, the know-how, the gastronomic fortitude, then that's what you're going to get. They don't have it. We always talk, people always talk about in other industries, this guy just has it. This girl has it. And no one can explain what it is. No one on that team has it. That's it.
And I don't and
that's it.
And Paul George already told us that he's not a number 1 on the championship team.
No, he already said it. When you come out and say it,
he already told us that. He told us that he's not a number 1 on the championship team. With him not being a number 1 on the championship team, what does that mean for them moving forward? Who do you have? Is this team even constructed to win the NBA championship? Because you ain't a lead singer. Joel Embiid ain't the lead singer. Is Maxey a lead singer? Like who are we writing the songs for that we can get hits?
I'll do it one more time.
It's time to blow this thing up.
I've been telling everybody for 5 years.
Yeah.
The process failed. Blow it up. Start over. When Joel Embiid had value, Imagine the haul they could have got for Joel Embiid last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They could have completely revitalized this franchise, heck, this city, if they traded him then.
Yeah.
They missed the opportunity because now no one wants Paul George. No one wants Joel Embiid. Maybe you can get a little something for Maxey, maybe, but not enough to completely build your team. And are you going to build around Maxey?
Yes,
No.
you are, Tone.
No.
Yes, you are, Tone. Yes.
Maxey's
And
number one.
well,
on
we
a
don't know what.
championship team?
Well, first of all, he's been in the league
When
for
I
what?
say build, okay, let me clarify. When I say build around,
Yeah.
I mean that's your number one centerpiece, and you're building around them.
Well, here's the thing, though, Tone. We don't know what these. We don't know if these guys can. We don't know if these guys can be a number one until they actually do it. We don't know that, and the reason why I know that for a fact is because in 2011, I'm watching James crumble in the finals, and I'm starting to think to myself, can he do it? Is this guy good enough to be a number one on a championship team? Maybe I was wrong about him. I don't know. As good as I think he is, and as much as I think he can be that guy, maybe I'm wrong about him. So I don't know that a guy can actually be that until they actually do it.
But he was making it to the finals.
Yes, he was.
So this is a team that's never made it to the second round. Remember when we both looked at, and I know you did this because we've had this conversation, looked at Portland when they made the Western Conference Finals, and you were like, that's it.
That was it. That was it. That was as good as that
guess
team was
what?
going to be.
Philadelphia has peaked. That's it.
This is as far as we're going with this crew.
When Kawhi Leonard hit the luckiest shot after a travel in the world and it bounced around 4 times, and is this the dagger? That was the end of the Sixers with Joel Embiid. That's when they should have blown it up.
So in 2019, it was
I've
over.
been saying it since then. Yes. And guess what? It's easy for me to say now, but you can go back and watch the tape. I was saying it then because what has happened since? Nothing.
Zero.
Bad decision after bad decision after failed playoff run after failed playoff run. So can we move on to something else? What about a better team like the Timberwolves?
Well,
Do you have anything about the Timberwolves?
I was about to say, Tone, since we're on the subject of bad decisions, Chris Finch wasn't happy about the officiating last night.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
He was not happy about the officiating when it came to Minnesota and Oklahoma City last night, and he voiced his opinion about it. He said, "quote We can light this up."
It's so frustrating to play this team because they foul a ton. You know, they really do. They foul all the time. And then, you can't really touch Shai. It's a very frustrating thing, and it takes a lot of mental toughness to try to play through it. And we just eventually were able to get downhill and force the issue ourselves, and we're rewarded for it.
Somebody actually said it. Somebody actually said it, Tone.
Okay, first, let me address him in a second. Let me ask you a question first.
Yes, sir.
Because I keep hearing this SGA free throw merchant narrative. Do you feel SGA sits on the perimeter and gets bailed out with fouls?
No, I don't.
Or is he aggressive and he goes to the rim?
I think he's aggressive and he goes to the rim. There's something to be said about me being able to get your best defender, who is on me, by the way. There's something to be said about me getting your best defender in foul trouble. The best players to have ever played have gone to the stripe numerous times. And you and I have had this conversation, Tone. Michael Jordan in 1987, he averaged 37 a game. He shot 12 free throws a game that season. 12. Kobe Bryant had a 5-year stretch where he shot 10 free throws a game. 10. None of you guys complained about Shaquille O'Neal going to the free throw line. You know why? Because Shaq wasn't that good at the free throw line. None of you guys complained about that. None of y'all. You didn't go, Shaq's a free throw merchant. No. In fact, you wanted Shaq on the free throw line. Meanwhile, SGA, who there's a skill set. There's a certain skill set that I can use to get your best player, your best defender in foul trouble, throw your team off rhythm. There's a certain skill set to that. Now, is Coach Finch happy with it? No, he is not. And somebody actually said it. So 2 things can be true. Is this effective? Yes, it is. Does it suck for me? Yes, it does suck for me because my guys can't play defense the way I want him to play defense. We can't really get into a rhythm like we want to get into. Why? Because we got to worry about this dude getting the whistle every trip.
Let me ask you a question. When LeBron James, his second year in the league, I don't really count players' rookie years typically because most of them don't do much, with the exception of like Magic and a couple others. For the most part, their rookie years, they're trying to.
Yeah, you just got the job.
So second year in Cleveland until second year in Miami. That is an 8-year stretch. What if I told you in that 8-year stretch, he shot over 10 free throws a game 3 times, and in that 8-year stretch, averaged 9.2 free throws per game, was still shooting about 4 threes a game, which we've already established you only get fouled on 1% of the time, was shooting, I want to give you the exact number, 20 field goal attempts.
He was shooting 20 shots and
going to the line 10 times. Did anyone call him a free throw merchant?
No, nobody said anything about James being a free throw merchant.
And why not?
That's a good question, Tone. Why wasn't anybody calling him a free throw merchant? I think the game was a little bit more physical.
Because they watched their game. No, because they watched the game and they saw a guy who was driving to the basket more often than not. So just so we're clear, of those 20 field goals, 4 were threes. So 16 times he would shoot inside the 3-point line. Now, he wasn't a great mid-range shooter. He wasn't shooting a lot from the mid-range. So most of it were drives to the basket. And on those 16 attempts, he was going to the foul line 9.2, 10 times, okay, on those attempts. It's because they watched the game and said, oh, he's really putting the pressure on the defense. He is going to the basket.
Correct.
So now you have a guy like SGA, similar in the sense that he's going to the basket, but he's not Shaq. He's not LeBron. When he gets hit, you're going to see him fall because he's not a big dude.
Which means he's flopping.
It's part of the reason guys like LeBron and Shaq, if you watch their games, you're like, oh man, they don't get enough foul calls. It's because, 1, they can't call every foul, and 2, because they have the body mass to withhold some of those hits. So now you have a guy like SGA who every time he gets hit, he's gonna fall. Like he's not a big dude.
Right.
And so if you watch the games, he's putting the pressure on the defenders and the refs, I guess, to make the call. So holding that against him as if, oh, he didn't really get fouled, they're just giving him the whistle, I think is so disingenuous.
I think we live in
because you don't do it. You do it for the players you don't like. Jordan haters will say it for Jordan was a free throw merchant, but they'll never say it for LeBron. They'll say James Harden was a free throw merchant. Now, there's some instances where they've had to change rules because guys were doing things like that leg kick out thing to get fouls. Okay, that's different. Right. Joel Embiid will get the free throw merchant. Right. It's typically the player you don't like that gets it. I've said to you a million times, I don't care if you can get the refs to call it. I've told you. Was
Reggie Miller a free throw merchant? If that's the case, because they outlawed that kicking leg out thing because of guys like Reggie Miller. So was he a free throw merchant?
I think he attempted to be. I don't know how many free throws he shot, but yeah,
so,
if you're drawing the foul like that, that's why they changed the rule. But again, if they don't have the rule and you're taking advantage of it,
yep. I'm just thinking.
I'm not going to blame you for taking advantage of the rule. Good for you for knowing the rule.
I'm not going to do that at all. And on top of that, Tone, what I'm not going to do is you being a scorer who gets to the free throw line. I'm not going to discredit you because somebody else thinks that you should be getting buckets in a quote unquote ethical way. Give me a break. Getting to the free throw line is part of the game. Yeah, that's part 100%. Of it. 100% is part of the game.
And it's a great part of it because, to your point, it puts the other team in foul trouble, which completely changes the other team's game plan. They didn't come in thinking, oops, my number one players or best defender is going to be in foul trouble. Right. But back to the Chris Finch thing, because I started off by saying he is a genius.
You did say that.
Why is he a genius? Well, who is Minnesota if they make it, right? Who are they expecting to meet in the playoffs at some point, possibly to make it to the NBA final? OKC.
I think I know where you're going with this.
And in the refs' heads now.
It sounds like some Phil Jackson shit. Phil used to do this.
Oh man, you know what? He made a big stink about that. Like, we do give them a lot of. They do go to the foul line and a lot. Like, there's a reason after every playoff game you'll hear coaches say, "That's ridiculous. I don't care if I get fined. They were fouling us all the time." Well, I guarantee you, the next time these two teams play, SGA is not going to go to the stripe very often, and I guarantee you, at least 3 players on OKC will be in quick foul trouble, like first quarter, two, maybe 3 fouls. That's going to happen.
In the words of the great Phil Jackson, they played that style of ball on their home floor. They're not going to play that style of ball on our home floor. What that sounds to me like is a message to the officials. Okay, guys, this is what they were doing in their building. You're not going to allow them to do that in our building. No. So guys getting bumped on screens, right? Jerseys getting held, guys getting tripped, guys getting hands put on them, guys being a lot more physical. You're not going to allow that in our building. No, you allowed that in their building. That's not going to happen in our building. Well, Coach Finch, to your point, Tone, is putting the seed already in the officials' ear. So by the time we get to the playoffs, that whistle is going to look a lot different because, okay, I'm already getting the whistle now, right? So you complaining to me about getting the whistle. I'm asking you to change this. What I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to be more attentive. Because my team, we can't really get into what we want to get into defensively if every time I turn around, he's going to the strike. Especially when we get in our building, we can't have that. We have no chance. So if I'm planting that seed right now, come playoff time, well, you might not see.
Mark it in your calendar. Mark it because they don't have any more regular season games against each other. Mark it in your calendar.
Yep.
If Minnesota and OKC match up, I guarantee you all over social media, they are going to be replaying that clip. And it's going to come from the Minnesota media. They're going to be replaying that clip of Chris Finch saying, they foul all the time. They've been doing it. SGA, you can't even breathe on them. And, and it's funny because then other people who agree or don't like OKC will say, oh, see, even Chris Finch said it, that, you touch him. Because you still hear to this day, remember that Dream Team photo shoot where Magic said, don't get too close to Jordan, it'll be a foul. Meanwhile, there's literally clips and clips and clips of the dude getting smoked. And you're like, what, that wasn't a foul? Like, come on, give me a break.
I'm glad you brought up foul because there's some people in Dallas that think Nico Harrison is foul for what he did in terms of trading Luka. There's some people that's not happy about that. They think he's foul. But turns out Nico Harrison no longer, from reports, Nico Harrison no longer wanted Mavericks to orbit around Luka, which means, ladies and gentlemen, they weren't interested in building this unit around Luka anymore. This was as far as we're going to go with this guy.
You know what that tells me? You know what that tells me?
That
he's a shitty GM.
He's not that smart.
He's a shitty GM because in his mind, what he basically said to you is, I'm not good enough of a GM to build a championship team around a top 3 player in the NBA.
So we're going to so we're going to move away from him.
I'm going to move from him. So my job becomes easier? I don't understand.
To your point, Tone, they did not want to orbit around Luka and would tried to trade him in the summer if the Lakers deal didn't happen. Well, again, you and I have had this conversation about the Trailblazers in 19. Okay, this is as far as we're going with this unit. We have to make some changes. In Philadelphia in 21, not Philadelphia, Atlanta in 21 when they went to the East Finals. Okay, this is as far as we're going with this unit, right? We're not going any further with this unit. So we have to make some changes. Nico Harrison looked at Luka and said, he actually took it a step further than we're not winning it with this group. He looked at Luka and said, we're not winning it with him. He's the guy that we are not winning it with. This is the guy. We got the change that we have to make. We don't have to make a change in personnel, get a better rebounder, get a better shooting guard. In fact, not even make any changes. Let's just get better. No, this guy that we have here, who is our main guy, we're not winning with him. We're not. And we got to come off of him.
just think about what happened.
I know that sounds
Last
ridiculous
year.
what I'm saying, Tone.
Last year they had no bigs, and they were struggling.
They had a rook big.
They make a trade, right? They bring in, and remember we talked about the trade. I'm like, I really want them to get Gafford, but they get Gafford. They get PJ Washington, right? They already had Lively, and now all of a sudden they make it to the NBA final. And we've already said, I don't even know how they did it because their number 2 is a very ball dominant type of player like Luka. That's not a good fit.
Right.
And his response to that was, I only have these bigs with him for half a season, and they made the NBA final. I know that these 2 guards don't fit together. I'm going to get rid of the best guy. Thank you. As a Laker fan, thank you. But, like, how stupid are you? I'm sorry.
No, there isn't a GM in my lifetime that I can remember that has said, okay, the best player in his prime, which I do see Nico's vision, Tone, and I know you don't see it. I know you don't see it. You think he's an idiot. Okay, and I can definitely appreciate your logic on that. However, I see his vision, and I see what he's trying to do in Dallas. I think he looks at this Dallas team, and with the addition of Anthony Davis, with Lively, with Gafford, with Irv, with PJ Washington, with Najee Marshall, with this group, this is a more defensive-oriented team, which is, I think, what the NBA is moving toward now. I think that they're moving in that direction. So a more defensive-oriented unit with a pick-and-pop big and a dynamic guard in Kyrie Irving, who's protected by other defensive wings, which you could have done that with Luka, sure. you could have done that with Luka.
Younger than Kyrie, right? Let's be honest. This move was made because of money. This move was made because of money. Hold on. SMT, there's no guarantee Luka wins a chip in LA. No guarantee at all. You're right. There's no guarantee anybody wins. So what? Every team should just blow it up? Come on.
No, we have to.
There's no guarantee the Celtics win. We should probably blow that up. Let's move Tatum. Tatum would look good in purple and gold.
My God.
Where he should have been in the first place. But anyway,
as I was saying, Tone, yes, you had that in Luka, but I think Nico looked at Luka Doncic and thought, I have a better opportunity to win. And I know this sounds ridiculous.
No, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I don't believe you.
I think that I have a better opportunity to win. And the way that this guy goes about business, spending $350 million on him, this contract is going to age like milk, sitting in an Arizona hotel in the Arizona heat. That's how this contract.
They didn't want to pay the money. That's it. That's the only. It had nothing to do with winning. It had nothing to do with making a better team. It had nothing to do with roster construction. This had everything and only to do with money. That's it.
This team was good. This contract is going to age.
I guarantee you, if Luka didn't have a supermax waiting, if Luka was still under contract for 2 years, they're not making this trade for basketball reasons. If Luka's contract extension was for $200 million, they're not making this this trade. They made this trade solely because they didn't want to pay him $350 million, and they didn't care if it made the team better or worse.
So we got a couple super chats before we move forward. I got one from Quan. I got one from Quan Johnson. He says, shout out to the only 2 unks I listen to consistently. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Can I ask a question?
You just did.
I hate when you do that. How do you officially become an unk? Is that just age, or is it an older, respected gentleman? Like what?
Yeah, it's an older, respected gentleman.
In that case, Quan, I appreciate you. Just don't forget to invite me to the cookout.
I'm actually an uncle, though. I actually am an uncle, and you are too, Tone. I mean, I think you're an uncle also. But
I got 4. I actually have 4. I got 2 nephews and 2 nieces.
But you're an uncle. You're an uncle in a different sense, just like I'm an uncle in a different sense because of the snow. Like you're not the uncle where, you know, the younger unk. You know, we're the more distinguished unks. That's what we are. We got teenage and young adult, nieces and nephews and stuff like that. I got my two nieces, my oldest niece, she's 21, and my youngest niece, she just turned 15. Yeah, she just turned 15.
I think my oldest nephew is 25, and my niece is 22.
Yep.
Don't quote me on that. But then I have down. Then I have them as low as 16 and 11. So I got everything covered. We got another super chat. Thank you,
Yes,
Quan,
we
by
do.
the way.
We got another super chat from Mello Williams. Mello Williams says Dyson Daniels. Dyson steals the last 5 games. 7, 4, 3, 4, 4. Mello, the problem that I'm having with a steals leader is the way he is looked at, which to this day still bothers me. Because people attach a guy being a steals leader to just being that. Like, steals leaders don't play defense because of the fact that Curry led the league in steals, or the fact that James Harden led the league in steals, and Magic led the league in steals. When in reality, just so you know, Michael Jordan led the league in steals. John Stockton led the league in steals. Chris Paul led the league in steals.
So did Magic Johnson.
See what I'm talking about? And that's the logic right there, Tone. The fact that, it's attached to that, it makes it look like,
because we assume steals. We assume that steal, because the problem with steals as a stat, right? Yep. When you don't watch, the problem with steals as a stat is 2 things. One, is it like Jordan, for example, who would gamble sometimes and jump a pass to get that steal, which also sometimes put him in a position where, because some players can't recover. He was good enough where he could recover, but where they jump the pass and now it puts the rest of the defense in a tough situation because he gambled and missed.
Yep.
The other part of a steal is if you tip it, not purposely to me, you just happen to get your hand in and deflect it, and I recover it, who the steal goes to. Because if you didn't purposely tip it to me by rule, if it just went off your hand and I grabbed it, I get the steal. But if you jump there's no way you could get it, but you jump and purposely tip it out to me so that I get it, well, then you get the steal. So the way that they're calculated is weird. The thing
go back to that second one again, Tone. So if I'm in a passing lane,
if you're diving for the ball, and you see that there's no way I can catch it because I'm going to go out of bounds, let's say, right? But you see me standing there and
I tip it to you, I'm awarded the steal.
You're awarded the steal.
But if I'm in the passing lane and I end up tipping
and you're
the ball,
just running
and I deflect the ball, and then you get it, that's your steal.
I get the steal, yes. So it has to be a purposeful tip to another. Same with the rebound.
Right.
I don't know if you know the same with the rebound. If I tip the ball to you and you rebound and you get it off a rebound, I get the rebound credit, not you. But if I accidentally jump, it hits me out in the head and comes to you, then you get the rebound.
Right.
So it's not always the person who recovers it, rebound or steal. That being said, when I look at steals, and this is why I say Dyson Daniels shouldn't be in the Magic, James Harden, Steph Curry, and should be looked at more in the Jordan, Chris Paul, is because he also leads in deflections. He's getting in those passing lanes, and if you watch, he's not getting destroyed on defense. He's not gambling on everything and they're beating him. He's playing good, solid defense and getting and deflecting the ball and getting those steals. So, and listen, I didn't know who the hell Dyson Daniels was. His, I think, rookie year when Fluent Jr. said to me, watch Dyson Daniels, he's going to be an all-defensive team. And I'm like, who the hell is Dyson Daniels? And how the hell do you know who he is?
Right.
And that's when I started paying attention, and I told you that's what he said. And now he's taking it a step further and said he might get an offensive game and be all NBA type player.
Mars was the one who turned me on to him. Mars turned me on.
I'm excited to see that. Who?
Mars is the one who turned me on to him. And
younger guys, they watch a lot of basketball, man.
Yes, Mars. But here's the thing, though, Tone. I was wrapped up in Herb Jones. They were both on the same team, and I wasn't paying it. Like, it's not that I didn't know about Dyson Daniels, because I knew about him in New Orleans. I just wasn't paying attention to him because I was wrapped up in Herb Jones, and because I was wrapped up in Herb Jones, I didn't see the defender that Dyson Daniels was. So because of that, now I started paying attention to him when he was in Atlanta. I was like, oh shit, this guy is for real. He's the real deal. And I definitely respect that from him. So when I think about, I do what I can to not put these guys all in the same bracket, right? I don't do that, Tone. I don't put guys like Magic and Curry and Iverson, right, and James Harden. I don't put them dudes in the same bracket with Jordan and Stockton and Chris Paul, because I don't want to. I don't want it to look like, because you're a steals leader, you don't play defense. All you're doing is getting in the passing lane. That's just not true. That couldn't be further from the truth. There's plenty of guys who are great at great anticipatory defenders who poke the ball away as an on-ball defender, not just in the passing lane. And they do get steals, and they should be credited for being defenders. And Dyson Daniels is a great defender. And since we're on the subject of defending, Tone.
I was about to bring up my squad.
Mm-hmm. Since we on the subject of defending, and I know that you're going to love this segment.
I do. I love it.
So, as you guys know, my man over here, he bleeds purple and gold. These are his guys, the Lakers. And over the last 15 games, right?
The only team in Los Angeles, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, over the last 15 games, the Lakers have the best defensive rating in the NBA. Now, I'm not a huge defensive rating guy. I care more about how many points you've given up. And Tone, over the last 15 games, your boys have given up 106 points a game. That's 8 points below league average. That's 9 points, almost 10 points below league average, what you guys are doing. Now, some of that was with Anthony Davis, but a lot of it has not been with Anthony Davis, off the strength that this team's defense as a whole has been much better. That game plan that you had, Tone, against Denver, I thought was a fantastic game plan. I don't think I've ever seen a team, and I know this may sound ridiculous, I don't think I've ever seen a team pick up Jabbar, Shaq, Lajuan, Ewing, David Robinson. I've never seen a team pick those guys up full court and stop them before they even get across half court. We're gonna pick you up before you get across half court. I've never seen a team do that. And
let me just give 2 quick points on that quickly. Mm-hmm. One, if that is JJ Redick's doing, then let me say he is a much better coach than I gave him credit for, because I was very, very, if it was him, we don't know that it was him. But also if it was him that allowed someone else to implement it, and he said, okay, that's part of coaching too. Let's be very clear. Phil Jackson, for as great of a coach as Phil Jackson is, if he doesn't say, hey, Tex, run the offense, who knows what happens, okay? Right. Mm-hmm. So that being said, if this is JJ Redick's doing, then let me be the first to say kudos to JJ Redick, because that was brilliant.
You're very critical of him, Tone. Very critical.
I'm very critical of him. So when he does something good, I'm going to give him, as critical as I am when he does something wrong, I'm going to give him credit when he does something right. I'm fair. Yes. That being said, so he gave that. 2, it's interesting that no one's ever thought of it before, because when you mention those other players, if you allow, just think about it, if you allow Kareem and Shaq and those guys to get down into the key, into the post and set up, you're already done. You're already cooked. So that is fantastic. Continue. I'm sorry.
Well, there's the thing I'm thinking about, and my grandmother told me this when I was a kid. She said, Jermaine, smart people hire people who are smarter than them. So with what JJ Redick has, I mean, don't forget who he has on his staff now, Tone, right? Nate McMillan is over there. In addition to Nate McMillan being over there, Scott Brooks is over there. So he's got some pretty smart people on his staff that can come up with pretty good schemes. Now, I'm thinking, because we went over this a couple of days ago, the idea of how exactly to counter that, right? How do you, if you're going to be, let me double back. The remedy for Joker has, it seems like, and I don't know how true this is, but I've seen this when they played against Minnesota last year, and also when they played against Minnesota the year they won the NBA championship in round 1. The remedy to Joker and slowing him down, not stopping him, because you're not going to stop him, but the remedy to slowing him down, it seems like you have to be physical with him. You got to rough him up a little bit. And how do you rough Joker up? You have to meet Joker at the point of attack, which is across. You got to do your work early. You got to get Joker, get within Joker before he gets going, right? Okay. Once you do that, number 2, while you roughing him up, you throw him off rhythm and you keep the ball out of his hands. I mean, I don't think he took a shot in the first quarter. And if he did, it was late in the first quarter that he took a shot. So you throw him off rhythm, keep him out of their offense. Now, here's the thing, Tone. My counter to that is, as a big man merchant and loving big men, I think it's pretty clear to me. I'm going to turn him into a 5-man. I'm not going to turn him into the modern day 5-man. I'm going to turn him into 1992 Shaquille O'Neal. I'm going to turn him into 1995 Hakeem Olajuwon. You know what he's going to do? He's going to run right to the rim. That's what he's going to do. We're not going to do any more of this. We're stopping, and he's going to stop at the free throw line. No, we're going to speed the game up. And what Joker is going to do? Joker is going to run to the rim when he's got Rui on him, and he's going to bury Rui right underneath the basket, and we're going to get him the basketball on the regular. That's how they beat Phoenix in the playoffs in 23. He had Kevin Durant switched onto him, and he would run to the rim, bury Kevin Durant underneath the basket, and get buckets, a la Karl Malone, David Robinson,
he is too good of a playmaker and too good of a scorer in the post to let that happen. If you allow that to happen, and maybe you just can't stop it, but if you allow him to do that, you're cooked. You're cooked. I will, and let's give credit to the Lakers. Not again, defensive rating, points per game. I know that they're tough to, but this is a team that I think. Now I know that some of this came with Anthony Davis, but everyone's like, look, Anthony Davis is their best defender. You're right, he is. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do believe that when they had Anthony Davis on the court, they relied on Anthony Davis to be the best defender.
Mm-hmm.
And the effort, although I'm not saying they didn't give any effort on defense, but it wasn't the same, because in the games where he wasn't playing, and then since the trade, I am seeing a different mindset, they're so much more assertive on defense than they were. And I think it's because they know I don't have that safety net back there. Yeah. We have to do this as a team or we're going to lose.
Sure.
And so it's been, can they keep it up? Because it takes a lot of energy to play defense like that. Can they keep it up is the question. If they can, we're looking pretty good. And pretty good.
I'm thinking about Fluent Jr. Well, he's got Pops over here, and Pop's got a couple of dollars. So the couple of dollars that I got on me, I know that I could blow him because I got Pops. And, Pop's going to bail me out. He's going to give me a couple of dollars. Well, the couple of dollars that I have on me, well, shit, I don't have Pops no more. So I got to stretch this. I got to make sure that this dough works because I don't know when I'm going to have this kind of money again, right? So I think that that's the same logic when it comes to the Lakers defensively. They were so reliant on Anthony Davis that, okay, any mistakes that I make, he's going to clean that up. So there isn't really much that I have to do, as opposed to now without Anthony Davis, okay, I got to be really detailed. I got to keep my guy in front of me. I got to help gang rebound. I got to make sure that I don't foul because I need to stay on the floor. I got to be really smart in my principles as a defender because we don't have that guy to rely on as much as we did. And I think as a team, they've gotten so much better. They've gotten so much better, Tone. That's really interesting.
Like, my favorite line from Shaq, we ain't rich. I'm rich.
There's the difference. Those two things are not the same.
You gotta make your money with.
Those two things are not the same. Absolutely not.
Jermaine was in the chat. Come on, Jermaine, we're waiting for you. But let's start with Bubba.
Yep.
Bubba.
What's up, brother?
Bubba.
Let's get him up.
How's it going, everyone?
What's up, brother?
Yeah, thanks for giving me letting me join. So when you guys were talking about, first of all, the best team that's ever played Jokic is obviously Minnesota, but I think if LeBron didn't have such a workload offensively, I mean, I know it's decimated now with Luka. I think he's the best on-ball defender when it comes to Jokic because the way he plays Jokic isn't even the same player. I personally feel like
James.
Yes, LeBron. Yes, because Olympics, he was the same way. When Jokic, go look at it. When he played Jokic in the Olympics, Jokic was not doing what he was doing on KD. And I think he's a better defender. But
well, he had Bam and he had Anthony Davis running with him too. So
he's better than Luka.
Yeah,
Right.
100%
But
is better than
the
Luka.
way you guys were describing how the Lakers played, though, right? I think you guys got like people need to start giving JJ Redick credit because he's a former player. So
Talk to this dude.
because he
Baba,
knows how
talk
to
to this
he
dude right
knows
here.
how to get into players. I'm serious. This
Talk to this
team
dude
is
right
different because of JJ Redick. But so my question, right, is that okay, so so people are getting paid early, right? So JT is about to get paid here pretty soon, right? So that means that I think they're gonna either have to move off KCP or Jaylen Brown, right? So
Jason Tatum already signed his extension. Everybody already got paid. These contracts kick in.
No, but he's saying it doesn't kick in. The big money doesn't kick in.
All these contracts, these guys have already gotten paid though.
Right, and the same thing with Oklahoma City. I think these big, they're gonna. So who can you see in terms of Jaylen Brown or Jalen Williams having their own team and almost being like that James Harden type of player where you see flashes of a number one, but now he actually has a chance to be a number one?
Well, I do think that this team is going to be broken up within the next 2 years because
which one? OKC or Boston?
Okay.
I wanted you guys to talk about both if possible, please.
I don't think the Celtics are going to be together in 2 years because to Tone's point, I mean, Tone has schooled me on the collective bargaining agreement in the first and the second apron, and the Boston Celtics over the next 2 years are going to be in cap hell. They're not going to be able to keep this crew together. It's not going to work. Just from a financial standpoint, they paid everybody: Drew, KP, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Pritchard. They paid everybody. And it's going to be a big problem. We're talking about over $250 million in luxury tax. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to continue to do that. So they're going to lose somebody.
I think I'll talk to both. I think it will most likely. Let me answer your question first. I think it'll most likely be Jalen Williams, and I'll start with the Celtics and say the reason why is because I ran the numbers after we had that conversation, and I think the Celtics are smart enough to know they have a better chance of winning with Tatum and Brown, and it's not easy, but it's more likely to find cheaper versions of Porzingis, a younger Holiday, a Derek White. I think it's again not easy, but I think it's easier to replace those guys.
Less difficult. It's less difficult.
Yeah,
sure.
If they're going to look for younger, cheaper versions of those guys.
Yep.
And be like, hey, we've got our superstar, we've got our secondary guy. Because again, they know the formula is superstar, secondary scorer, defense, and rebounding from role players. That's it. That's the formula that wins more championships than anything else. I've got my superstar, I've got my secondary scorer who's also a good defender. Let me now fill in the other pieces. That's the easier part. And look, they'll try to keep as many of those guys as they can. But when you have $120 million-ish just between those two guys, the good news is cap is going to go up. So it's $120 million isn't going to be that scary, but they can't pay Porzingis 50 and Holiday 40 and Derek White 30. Like they just can't do it. So they're going to start to replace those guys if they want to keep it together.
Now, with that also being said, and to Tone's point, and Tone's been saying,
can I finish on the Jalen Williams? Sorry, because he said for both, and then I'll
and pick a team too. Because I think
Jalen Williams. I think history repeats itself. He was a history major. He'll tell you history repeats itself. So Jalen Williams is going to get to a point where he's so good, and he'll be like, I think I can do this on my own. And it won't be so much as them shipping him off as him saying, hey, I can go do this on my own.
With
what team? Phoenix. Sorry, go ahead.
With what you said, and by the way, Baba, Tone has been advocating that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum stay together since I met him. He was like, you do not split these two up. Don't do that. No matter what is going on, we can work around these two guys, but you keep these two guys together for as long as you possibly can. Don't split them up. I don't think I disagree with Tone with Jalen Williams because I think that Oklahoma City made that mistake with James Harden because James Harden, for all intents and purposes, at that time, Oklahoma City was, I think they were the 39th biggest market in America. They weren't a big deal. And when they ended up trading James Harden, they ended up saving $30 million. Now in 2012, $30 million is a lot of bread for a team like Oklahoma City. And they ended up paying Serge Ibaka, and they ended up saving a lot of bread. I don't think that they make a mistake of losing out on Jalen Williams to the exact point that you just talked about with both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I don't think that they break those two guys up. I think that those two guys stay there, and I think that they build that unit around those two guys.
But that's what I'm saying is I don't think it's them telling him to leave or moving him. I think he says, I want to go see if I can do it on my own,
right.
More so than Jaylen Brown.
Because I think sorry. Yeah.
And with having Chet, okay, and with having Chet, I can definitely appreciate that. But you also have some leeway with Chet. Don't forget, Chet missed his rook season. Not only did he miss his rook season, he missed.
Yeah, but when Chet becomes the the everyday player, right?
Yeah.
And he's the number 2. You don't think Williams is like, you know what? I don't want to.
We got to see it though first, Tone. We got to see it.
I don't want to see the third little pig.
We got to see it though first, Tone. If Chet doesn't hold up, you might be lucky enough to have what happened in Golden State with Curry, where you ended up getting him on the cheap off the strip that he got hurt. And you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe 187 million is not legit. Maybe it's something less than that. So no.
Yeah, and my mom,
Mike, I'm a troll on IG. That's why I got 38,000.
my mom always said, I got to listen to my elders, right? So I just wanted to say that I was completely wrong about the New York Knicks. Oh my goodness, they are an atrocity when it comes to these big top tier teams that they got to face. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Good to talk to you. Hey, Zol, just so you know, I don't know if you know this, but I got League Pass, and not only do I have League Pass, but on TNT and on NBA TV, these games get rebroadcast, so I get to watch them over. I'm not just watching. I know you're a Mars guy, and I can appreciate that. I have no problem with you being a Mars guy, but I do watch basketball. I do watch
his mama's attic. Get the hell out of here.
I do watch basketball, and I take offense to you telling me that I'm just a highlight merchant. I take offense to that. So with that being said, F you.
F Mars.
And I mean that.
Are you doing playback tonight?
Not tonight, no.
You want to do the Laker and Mavs game?
I'm doing it Thursday.
I'm going to play back Thursday. No, you had enough of me.
What up, Jerome?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
What's up, brother?
Yeah, let me start off with this. I learned a long time ago. You can always suggest to an adult, but you can tell a child what to do. And y'all are my age, so I'm gonna say this. It's just a take, and I want y'all to interrupt and say anything that y'all want to say while I'm saying what I'm saying. Please do. Okay, but when it comes to basketball, we start with Tatum. I'm listening to the show, but when it comes to people like Tatum, it's a reason why people like Tatum, they don't really respect what he's doing, because he's not the people's person, because he doesn't come through on big games. Look at the 500 games that he win. I mean, just look at the numbers. He beat down on the lower class, and when it comes to big games, he doesn't even show up.
That's not true, Jerome. That's not true at all.
No. I know. I'm saying, I know you look at the numbers. No, he doesn't.
No, it's not the numbers. It's not just the numbers. No, he shows up in big games. We've seen him plenty of times show up in big games. Even when he's not playing well, he showed up in big games. That's not true.
Okay. No, let me finish what I'm saying.
Yep.
He doesn't. No, listen what I'm saying. He will show up, but I'm talking about it's a Kobe 30. They'll win based up 30 shots on a 30 points. They might win on despite what he did. That's what I'm saying on that part. That I wish you would have let me finish that part of it, but I understand what you're saying on that. Yeah, they could still win. It's a reason why he didn't get MVP on those games, because Jaylen Brown would still. Brown would still get the numbers and on defense and get some blocks and stuff like that and still score. I understand that, but they can still win despite those type of people like the volume shooters and stuff like that. Dillard can do that sometimes. They can shoot you out of game, and Carmelo and people like that, they can shoot you out of game, And that's normally what happens. That's why we don't celebrate these guys as much, because they don't come through when you really need them. They beat down teams when they're low. Detroit, Charlotte, Utah, and teams of that nature. So when it comes the 500 teams, no, he doesn't come through, and you know they don't. And that's why they can't give him the MVP. And you'll look at the casual fan, you look at the box score like, whoa, man, he got 30 points, 35 points. Why he didn't get MVP? I know why, because you got the package. You saw it. Just look at the box score. He shot 30 shots and got 30 points. Or not, I'm exaggerating it, but I'm just saying, and this is why he doesn't get it, and that's why he's not celebrated as much as the big stars.
So if
pass
that,
it to you right quick.
So Jerome, if that's true, I mean, don't we talk about Dominique Wilkins? And Dominique Wilkins came up short a lot of times in big games, but we talk about him as a big time player.
Everybody came up short in big games.
Yeah. So it's not just him, and not only that, Jason Tatum has come up big in big time games. The fact that the fact that Jason Tatum didn't win the Finals MVP is a travesty.
No.
That's never happened. Just because it's not as loud as you want it to be. Because
No.
I think you're holding him to the Kobe Bryant standard. I think that's why you brought up Kobe Bryant. We've never, in the history of the NBA, we have never seen a guy who led his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks on a team that has won the NBA championship not win the Finals MVP. That's never happened, ever. But because it's not as loud as you want it to be, it's not as boisterous as you want it to be, then he's not showing up, which is not true, because he did show up. Now, it might not have been as loud as you want it to be.
I didn't say. No, I didn't say he didn't show up. Those are not my words. I didn't say he didn't show up. They won despite him. That's my point. They won despite what he was doing. In my words, it would be he was selling the game, and the other guys contributed, and they helped out and won the game despite what he was doing. He did contribute, yes. I'm not saying, yeah.
What does that mean, Jerome, when you say despite what he was doing? Like, what does that mean? What does that mean despite what he was doing?
He wasn't the contributor. That's why he didn't win the MVP. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you can't say that because, again, he led the team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. You can't contribute more than that. You can't. And it's not empty because they were winning because of that. They won in those two games when they played against Indiana when he went 30-10 in both of those closeout games. Just so you know, he's the only one who's ever done that in Celtic history. Bird never did that. Russell never did that in back-to-back games. That's never happened. So the idea that he doesn't contribute, he 100% contributes. They're not winning in spite of it. That's not true at all.
Yeah, don't use the words didn't contribute, because he did contribute.
That's what you said, though.
No, I didn't say he didn't contribute. I said he was selling. But look, listen to the words, because if you say those words, that would be twisting what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that they won despite what he was doing. That's all I'm saying. They won despite what he was doing. He did contribute. He did contribute.
Can't we say that about a lot of guys? They won in spite of what this guy was doing? Because we've had a lot of guys play bad. We've had a lot of guys play bad, right? Jordan played bad in '96 in the NBA Finals. They still won in spite of what Jay was doing. That did happen.
Well, that's also a little disingenuous.
Is it?
Yeah, because he when you say he played bad, that signifies he played worse than other people playing in that series. And no, he played below what we expected from him, but he was still the best player on his team and the best player in the series. And even though you look at, let's say, his field goal shooting percentage, it was lower than what he normally does, but still better than the rest of his team.
Right.
He's still yes, low by his standards, but not. So that's the definition I say when we say bad compared to himself or bad compared to the other people in the series.
Right.
bad compared to
I mean,
himself.
the last time we saw him in the NBA Finals, he was averaging 41 a game. He went from that to the last 3 games of that series against Seattle. I think he was barely averaging 22 a game.
Yeah, but when you say he led the team by this, that, and the other, but you got to understand that was still lower than the standard for him. That's what I'm saying. He was still lower than his standard and then which he should have produced. And that's the problem. They won despite what he was doing. Bro, look at what he was shooting.
When you say despite, and maybe you're just using the wrong word and meaning something else, because despite means like without what he would have done, they still would have won. And that's not true at all.
Okay. Show me by the numbers.
Okay, so
like
Jalen
means like without effect. So what you're saying is what he did didn't affect the outcome of the finals.
Which it did. It clearly
Which
did.
It absolutely did.
It 100% did. What you're making it sound like, it sound like we won in spite of how you played. We won even though you were terrible. Because other guys.
No, I didn't say terrible. I did not say terrible.
You don't have to say, okay, you don't have to say terrible, but
you
said you don't have to say terrible, but we're insinuating again, Jerome, in spite of what I did, we still did this. That's what we did. But we gotta wrap this. We gotta wrap this up.
Sorry.
I'll let it go. We'll let it go. Bro, he did not look. Brown saved them. That's why he got MVP.
I'm not trying to hear that, man. I'm not trying to hear that.
Brown won the MVP for a reason.
We gotta go, man. We gotta go, brother. We gotta go.
Yeah, it's all.
I hate when people make me defend Celtics.
What up, Sneak? Yo.
What up, Boom? What up, Chill? What's going on, guys? Hey, I wanted to speak to actually, let me start with Jerome real quick. That was awful, man. That was just really bad. I mean, Jason Tatum, if I look at just the finals performance, I mean, this guy was scoring 31, 11 assists, the closeout game, perfect from the free throw line. What are we talking? Just enough. Anyways, the Lakers in the first 3 months of the season were really bad on defense, really bad. Yes. Okay, so October, November, December, and then all of a sudden in January, I think it was right when AD got hurt at the end of December, they decided they wanted to play defense. And I think that the reason for that was, and this is just from observing because I'm watching the games, I see LeBron all of a sudden start to commit defensively, and I'm seeing intensity on his part. He's starting to defend with rigor. So he's committing defensively. He's consistently defending his position better. And then the team starts to do it more too, because defense is infectious, and defense requires everybody to rotate, and defense requires everybody to be involved to do their part. When you have one weakness in the defense, you'll defend for 23 seconds and give up an open three, and it breaks the back of the defense.
I've always said that James looked like the old dude that got with the young chick, and now he got his hair cut. He got a little bit more bounce to him now. He just looked a little bit different. It just looks a little bit different. But Sneed, we got to go, brother. It's good to talk to you, my man.
All right, bro.
I'd love to talk to you, but we got to go.
I'm trying to bring up the stats. That's what I'm looking down. I'm trying to bring up the stats from last year's finals. Like, I'm like, did I miss something?
No, you didn't, Tone. You didn't. Yeah, 30 and 10 in the closeout game.
I told you the Harbor's back here. There's a massive boat pulled in. And I was like, and I looked and I was like, this is the biggest boat I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if you guys heard it, but you know how like sometimes you do the panel in the morning and they've got the and you got the landscapers outside. We can't always hear it, but you hear like that's why I was like, that's a boat. Like
that's a boat right there, no doubt.
That is huge. It is okay. But like,
I know we got to go.
Like I'm looking at the numbers now.
You didn't. You didn't. I mean, I think he had 30 and 10 in that closeout game. If anybody had 30 and 10 in the closeout game, we would be praising him, no matter how they shot. We did the same thing with Bryant. We did the same thing with him. And he was bad in that closeout game in Game 7. And we didn't say nothing.
Do you think it's because of the way he started the series? Because he finished strong.
Yes, he did.
But when he starts with 16 points in the first game, 18 points in the second game, do you think people just focus on that and they don't realize again what?
What did it look like after that, Tone?
Yeah, because then he's 31, and I know points isn't the only thing that matters, but he's 31 in game 3. You know, like you had mentioned he was 30, whatever the other, like, I don't know. It's interesting for me that I think it's how he started and not how he finished. But anyways, I digress.
All right, guys, we got one more.
Oh,
we got one more. We got one more.
Yeah, Debo's waiting. Debo. I don't know who Debo is.
We got one
Debo's
more.
waiting.
What up, fellas? You hear me?
What up?
Yeah.
What up, man? What up, Chill? Ain't heard from you in a minute, man.
What's up, bro?
What's up, Fluent?
What's going on?
Good. So what I think y'all right on point with that Tatum theory. I got what I'm gonna say is quick. I also think people look at Tatum that way, kind of like when you said the rich dude with all the stuff, but as well as I think some of the Miami Heat series early on, when he lost a couple of those, it wasn't just him. It did make him look soft because his team was not soft, but just like he didn't have that. Like Jimmy kind of punked him a little bit. So until he got over the hump, I remember the one they beat them. I think Jimmy missed a 3 at the end of like the last shot, barely missed it. I think that because Miami was an inferior team, maybe not by much, but if you
they
look
were.
at
Boston was a better team. Yes, they were.
That's what I'm saying. So losing a couple of those, I think he lost to them twice, right?
Yes.
Losing to them twice made people look at him like you can't win with a better team when you should win. And then that Atlanta series, that kind of hurt too. And I think, he won last year, but his team was so overpowered that it kind of seemed like, oh, you can only win when you're front running. Kind of like back when the Warriors got the KD. With all them guys, Drew Holiday, White looks like he's a beast. Porzingis, Brown playing like an all-star too. And then you got that whole backup and that they got like 8-9 deep that can play. So winning that kind of takes away from his greatness because he was great, but it's like you should have won that, low key. Like they were better than Dallas too. Like realistically, they were a better team. So I think that's why he doesn't get some of the credit. He should get the credit because people forget how young he is too, because he started off out the gate. So people forget how young he is, and like, it took LeBron a long time to win. So I do feel like people they just a little harder on him. I don't know. I think it's because of that. That Jimmy Butler's scenario kind of hurt him a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Enough. That's all I had to say, man. That's what I see. But I think he's great though. So
good to talk to you, my dude.
Yeah, man. Nice talking to y'all, bro.
Absolutely.
Let me end the show with this. Remember that dude on TikTok that said we a bunch of Jordan Glazers and he was gonna come teach us?
He never showed up. He never showed up again.
He did. He came at 8:30 and said, "Do you guys engage in the chat?" When I said yes, we engage in the chat. I didn't even call him out by name. I said Jermaine, and I said the last 30 minutes of the show. He then left the show and went on TikTok and messaged me and said, "I came. I was up. What up? You didn't reply." I said, "I absolutely replied. I told you the last 30 minutes. We're still here." I said, "Bring it." That was 20 minutes ago. I said, "We're going late."
And he's still
he's not here.
Still.
So with that, I have no music. I got no soundboard. I got a big boat.
You don't have to have one. I just want to put it out there. Mike, you a sucker dude, yo. You a dude that's a clout chaser. And that's all you are. That's all you've ever been. And you trying to get clout off the backs of people who actually built something. You a sucker dude. And I have no respect for you whatsoever. Zero. You have done nothing. Zero. You brought nothing to the game. All you do is run around and chase other people to get clout. You a sucker. And I have no respect for you. And you neither, Green. You a sucker with them. Also, both of y'all dudes is sucker dudes. With that being said, we out. It was good to see you guys. We will see you guys soon. You know what time it is when you see us. We will see you guys soon. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. But let's have me talk to your mother. I just talked to my mother yesterday. She told me I gotta go watch that HBO documentary about the Dream Team that they beat. That they beat the Dream Team. She called me and told me that I have to watch that. She said,
watch the whole thing.
Yes,
because then they talk about the other games after when they got smoked.
Yes. She told me that I have to watch it.
Watch the whole thing.
Yeah, she told me that I got to watch that. So I just talked to my mother yesterday. So call your mother. We will talk to you guys soon. But until then, take it light. But take it. Absolutely, man. It's good to see you guys.
You can't keep doing those rants to Mike and Green. That's what's going to keep. That's what keeps us off. Keeps us off ESPN.
Oh, Canada. Put on a suit, drink water. Don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.